Hello, friends. Michael Zuber here. How you doing? As the author of Amazon's self-published book, One Rental at a Time, I'm lucky enough to be invited now and again to speak on different podcasts. And frankly, I say yes to every chance I get because I think the one rental at a time story is unique and needs to be shared. But the reason for this video is I was asked a different question today. And I thought it's something maybe I should have been asked before, but I wanted to sort of share it with you. I've always been, a common question is, why'd you write the book, right? And I've shared that a couple of times. But the question I got today that I was really excited about was, who should read your book? And I'm actually going to take that a step further and who should and who shouldn't read your book. So I'm going to tackle that right now because I think it's something I should share, or at least share what I think. So first, it's easier to say who shouldn't read my book. If you believe in get rich quick, if that's what you're seeking, this book's not for you, right? This book, shares an entire journey from a single house to financial freedom. But that journey is 15 years in duration. I don't think in anybody's mind that would qualify as get rich quick. So if that's what you're searching for, if that's what you're seeking, I'm sorry, I'm not your guy. My story of one rental at a time is not for you. The other one I think is appropriate that I really need to acknowledge is if you're looking at this book, One Rental at a Time, as a how-to book, it's not that. This is a story of our journey. And I do the best I can to share what we were thinking at the time. And then I go back and sort of share what's changed, what worked, what didn't work. It's not a do this, do that. Here's a prequel letter. It's not a how-to book. I think how-to books are, frankly, rather dry, and they also are not very time-oriented, right? I think there's lots of things going on in time. So if you're seeking a how-to book, how-to one rental at a time, again, I'm here to tell you that this book is not for you. So those are two that I came up with. It's really pretty clear, not how-to books. I guess the last one is, hey, if you're looking to have a professionally written book with all the fancy words and vocabulary, I'm not your guy. I wrote this book. I did have a couple of New York editors go through it, but it was still my voice, my story. English was my worst subject in school. I was terrible at it. My English teachers will tell you that. I just never got how to tell a story. So again, not get rich quick, not how to, and I apologize in advance. It's not a perfect book, but it is our story. So who should read it? I think that's an interesting question. I think, if you've ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and were inspired by the concept of your house is not an asset or the fact that you should own passive income via rental real estate, I think you need to read this book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki and Kim Kiyosaki get a lot of credit for kicking me in the pants when I was 30. And we jumped in, right? Our story of one rental at a time starts because we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and bought our first rental house. Without that book, I don't have that wake-up call, and we never get this journey started. So again, you could see, this book is interesting because you can really see how somebody went 100% in because of that single book and see how 15 years later, how it turned out. In addition, if you work a full-time job and you're interested in real estate investing, but you're unsure of what you can do or how you can participate. You see all these things on social media, and it feels like a full-time job, or grind 20 hours a day and work your day job and then do this else. That's not me, right? What I give you is, hey, one rental at a time. Sure, we did something every day for 10 years, right? We're looking at our market, but it was minutes a day, right? It wasn't, go work my 12-hour day job, then come home and work 4 hours and then, go to bed and repeat, maybe a Gary Vee style. This is we were going to buy one rental at a time. We were going to learn our market. We were going to go forward. We were going to buy one. They're going to, season it and, get it better. And again, you see the little trickles of cash flow grow over time. And the journey is quite fun. And again, it goes up and it goes down and it comes back. So if you work a full-time job, and you're interested in this as a part-time or side hustle, I think you'll enjoy the book. That's what we did, and I think you'll get from that. If you're someone like me, you have no connections. We actually chose a city where we knew no one. I'd actually driven through it one time when I was 13, but never physically had been there. We had no systems, no mastermind, no real estate guru, no real estate events, nothing other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad when we started. We since believe in networking and real estate meetups and all of that. But if you're like me, right, full-time job, travel around, family responsibilities, know that you need a better way, I think you're going to like this book because the one rental at a time story is sort of in your wheelhouse because that's what we did. If you're thinking out of area or out of state, I really think you need to look at this book. We did the whole look in your backyard, right? Every book I read when I started was invest 30 minutes from home. I live in Mountain View, California, or Silicon Valley. Not going to work. So we ended up choosing a market that was 2.5 hours away one way. So anytime we wanted to go see a property, it was 5-hour commitment minimum. And you can get lots of places in 2.5 hours. So if you're thinking out of area, right, you don't know anyone, I think you should read this book because, again, it tells you how we learned our market, how we grew our team, and how we had to fire some people because we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Here's one for you. If you think the market we're in today is hot and you're going to go sit on the sidelines and wait for the crash, I think you should read this book because what you're going to see is we invested all the way up. We did take a little pause at the peak as we did some 1031 exchanges. Again, all in the book, all detailed. And then the crash happens and we were active investors. What I wanted to point out there is you can never call a top, right? We use something, as you'll see in the book, called the affordability index to basically signal to us stop buying houses, but we kept buying other stuff. All right. At the time, small apartment buildings were underappreciated, so we started buying those instead. Right? If you want to know what to do in a crash, you need to buy this book because this is what people don't tell you. Right? When markets crash, there's lots of people that can easily say today that they're going to invest when the market crashes. Most of you are wrong because you're going to get scared. Your neighbor's going to lose their job. You don't know where the bottom is, so you just keep on waiting. We jumped in and we bought all the way down, right? We were buying all the way down. And then we, once the bottom was in, we bought a ton. But here's the rub. In a crash, the entire world changes. What I mean by that, at least in the last one, is we went from, we had 800 credit scores, 6-figure incomes, a decent net worth, and we couldn't get a bank loan. Think about that. What if you couldn't get a bank loan and all the houses were on sale? What are you going to do then? Buy one? Buy two? We share in the book how we went ahead and bought every property we could, right? One of the things I wanted to make sure is we didn't come back and say we wish we bought more. We were aggressive. We bought everything we could. This is a big one, the next one here. If you're like me and you're attracted to cheap properties, you need to read this book. One of the big mistakes that I highlight in this book is I bought cheap properties and wasted my cash. We only had $40,000 when we started. And if I were to buy a cheap property, put a down payment, and then have all the repairs, my money's gone. And that was such a stupid mistake. And again, lots of people are attracted to cheap. I was attracted to cheap for a decade, so I get it. But read the book. I think you're going to find out that there's a better way, in my opinion. If you're in a relationship, right, significant other, you both need to read the book. One of the things you'll see is that Olivia and I have been in this since day one, and you should all read the Norris Drive story because that was the first property we bought. We did everything right, and it still blew up. So read that story together and make sure you both are committed. Because if you're not both committed, it could get ugly. So do yourself a favor, read The Pain of Our First Rental and see what you two would do. I think that would, the $14.99 it costs to buy this book will save you a lot of stress in your relationship. And lastly, if you are intrigued by the idea of being not a property manager, right? We do not property manage any of our properties. Actually, since day one, we've always had a property manager. Again, full-time job, busy family, you couldn't pay me to be a property manager or self-manage. So if you want to understand how that looks like, how we did that, how we managed a team, how we fired property managers, you need to read the book. So at the end, hopefully this made sense. I think there's lots of reasons you should get this book. And Yes, as the author of a self-published book on Amazon, when you buy it, I will make a couple of dollars. But trust me, I am not making any money on this to speak of. In fact, I'm going to likely put out a Google ad or a Facebook ad with this video that will far exceed any book sales. I'm doing that because I want this book to help people. It took me, a horrible writer, a long time to put this together, and I want some people to read it. And lastly, go to Amazon. You could check out the reviews. Last time I checked, there was over 65-star reviews and a single 1-star. The 1-star, again, it's not a how-to book. I already told you, and I apologize in advance. I'm not an English major. I'm a C student that was probably graciously given a C in English, specifically creative writing. But I do my best, and it's our story, and I'm proud of it. I think there's lots of reasons you should read it. Go to Amazon, type in One Rental at a Time or Michael Zuber, and of course, have a great day. And lastly, if you have read it, leave a comment below. Thank you very much.